everybody! So big news in the makeup world. MAC is now available online at Ulta, and starting in June, it will be in select stores. So I know this is a big deal because, well, MAC has always been available online from a variety of sources, like MAC Cosmetics directly or Nordstrom. I think Macy's carries it as well, a couple other places. I know a lot of you like to touch it and feel it in person. I totally get it. So I went online, I looked at all the offerings, and I kind of wanted to run through and give you my recommendations, and both positive and maybe cautionary, let's say, and just give you my completely biased personal opinion on what I think you should and should not get from Ulta from the MAC collection. So I have made a list. I'm prepared today, and I'm just gonna run you through it. I'm wearing a lot of it too. So first on the list is the famous, and all of these are pretty famous. It's not the full MAC collection, so they really stuck with the best-selling products. So the first thing is the MAC Prep and Prime, they call it now, Fix Plus. They carry it in this big old size, and then they also have it in the more travel-friendly and less expensive smaller size. And I will admit, this is the first time I've ever bought the big size. I've been constantly buying the little one. And when you compare price per ounce, it is a little more economical to go with the big guy. I do recommend this. It's not exactly a setting spray, although I'm feeling a little powdery. This is what I recommend it for. If you have perhaps over powdered, I just sprayed my eye, it takes down that powdery look to your makeup. What I use it for the most is I do like to use shadows wet or foiled, or when I'm working with pigments, I like to wet my brush. And this, hands down, best thing to use to wet your brush. So I really do recommend it. Next on my list is the MAC lipstick in Retro Matte, and the shade that I can personally recommend to you is called Ruby Woo. It's one of my go-to kind of power shades and evening shades. If you are looking for the perfect matte, definitely drying, but neutral blue-red, teeth whitening, you know, power woman, take on the world red, this one is it. It is a matte formula. It is not as drying as like a liquid lipstick. It is quite long wearing, and I've not tried the other retro matte shades, but this one is a classic, the Ruby Woo, for a reason. It is a great red, and I will always have this in my collection. The other lipstick that I recommend is what I'm wearing now. Let me just add a little bit more. This is very different in formulation. This is the MAC lipstick in the Lux Lustre formula, and I think you can see not a lot left in my little bullet here. This is the shade Syrup. I can't remember if I just said that. This was popularized years ago by so many makeup artists on YouTube for a very good reason. It is your lips but better, a little more color, a little more, just a little bit more if you work in a conservative office environment, if you're a bride. This is a shade that's great for both. If you just want something you can slap on every day without having to look in the mirror, this is the shade. And it's very creamy and moisturizing on the lips without slipping all over the place. You don't need a lip liner. It's a great lipstick. Now, all the other lipsticks that are available by MAC, it's a personal preference thing. If you have a particular shade you're attached to, like these two shades that I recommend, by all means, go get them at Ulta if you can. I just feel like since MAC first got on the scene, all the other makeup brands have kind of stepped up their game, drugstore and high-end, and there's a lot of other options out there at maybe even better price points. So can't really recommend any of the other shades personally, but these two I will repurchase when I need to, and it looks like I need to repurchase Syrup pretty soon. Another recommendation, and I'm wearing it now, if the Tarte Shape Tape is not your thing, you'll probably like this. This is the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer. I have it in the shade NC15. I mentioned it last week in my Nordstrom beauty haul. This one has a much better shade range, I feel, than the Tarte Shape Tape. It's not quite as drying under the eyes. It lasts, I think, they last about the same amount of time. The difference is this is water resistant. So for me, particularly as things heat up and it gets sweatier and more humid where I live, this is the concealer I think I'll be reaching for over the Tarte Shape Tape. But always with any kind of like heavy duty concealer under the eye, especially if you're my age or older, moisturize, moisturize, moisturize. I have it to show you, but I put it away and I just didn't dig it out. The MAC Mineralized Skinfinish, not the Skinfinish Natural, but the Mineralized Skinfinish that's more of the shimmery highlighter. There's several shades. The one I own that I'm not even bothering to get is called Soft and Gentle. Skip it. This is a highlighter that is $33. I am sorry, MAC, but since you came around, everybody else decided to come out with a highlighter and all of theirs are better. Today, my highlight, Flower Beauty, available at Walmart. I love it. The Makeup Forever is it not Pro Longwear? Makeup Forever, whatever their highlighter is called, Profusion. Love that one as a higher end version. Obviously the Becca Shimmering Skin Perfectors, they're a little more intense. The new favorite of mine that's kind of on par with the amount of shimmer is the Charlotte Tilbury, the highlighting part of the Sculpt Bronze and Glow. There's just so many options out there for less money that are better. It's hard for me to justify. Just skip it. Skip the Mineralized Skinfinish in the highlighter version. But my everyday go-to powder to set my makeup and get on with it is the MAC Mineralized Skinfinish in Natural. They've redone the packaging not too terribly long ago, so it's a nice magnetic closure. It even has a mirror. It doesn't have a brush or a pad, so if you bring it out of the house with you, you have to bring that separately. But if you're looking for a good pressed powder or setting powder, especially if you have drier skin, this actually has vitamin E in it. I've never had a problem with it making me look cakey. Comes in a lot of shades. I personally use the shade Medium, which is technically too dark for me, but I feel like it gives a nice warmth to my face. Very much mimics the effect of the Laura Mercier Candle Glow setting powder. And it is worth it. So that I would say grab. Next is the Pro Longwear paint pots. I have one in soft ochre. I've had mine a long time. It's starting to dry up. The beauty of these versus their drugstore counterparts is these can be resurrected. There's tons of YouTube videos on how to, get these back to their creamy state with a little Fix Plus, or I think maybe, I can't remember what other additives you can throw in here, and a little microwave and a toothpick and you're back to creaminess. If you are doing heavy duty Instagram eyeshadow makeup looks, this is a great base. But even if you're just a normal person slapping on your makeup and you have the issue of discoloration on your lids, these paint pots are great. A lot of people prefer Painterly. I am more of a yellow tone person, so I prefer soft ochre as my paint pot of choice. Cannot forget my absolute favorite, can't live without, use everyday MAC product, the MAC Prep and Prime highlighter pen, specifically in the shade Radiant Rose, often imitated, never duplicated. This shade goes on my face every day after foundation, before my concealer. I put it on in the corners of my eyes, wherever there's darkness, wait about 30 seconds, pat it in, and then slap on concealer. In this case, it would be the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer on top of that. I look bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, at least I like to think so, even when I'm not. Now there are other shades, so if this one's a little too dark for you, there are a couple other peachy toned ones that may be a little more suited for a darker olive tone skin. It blends so nicely into the skin. I cannot live without this. I will always have one with me in my makeup collection. Now on to the elephant in the room, their eyeshadows. So when I first got started on YouTube, before I even started making videos, I was just a fan watching videos. Everyone used MAC eyeshadows in their tutorials, because no one else was making eyeshadows like MAC, and the color selection and the variation in texture and finishes, nobody had MAC beat. But that was in makeup world 1,000 years ago, but it was really like 7 or 8 years ago. But since then, every high-end brand and even most drugstore brands have upped their game, and I feel like pigmentation is better in a lot of brands. The creaminess is better in a lot of brands. Again, I go back to Flower Beauty. They obviously don't have the same color selection that MAC does, but what they do make, I feel, performs better on me than the MAC shadows. But if you really want to dip your toe into the MAC eyeshadow water, I get it. We all collect makeup. If you haven't explored MAC, there is a reason it's still around. I mean, they do make some really beautiful individual shades that I think everybody needs in their collection, and that's probably a separate video. But if you're gonna buy a single eyeshadow from MAC, don't spend the $16 that's already for a potted eyeshadow. Order it from MACcosmetics.com and get it $6 in just the pan and put it in a Z palette. But if you want to get a whole collection all at once and kind of get more bang for your buck, this is a great idea. I bought a while back from Nordstrom, but they now carry, it comes in different options. This is the Warm Neutral palette. These are 15 shades. Some of them are permanent collection, some of them are limited edition, and this palette is $65. Normally, what did I write it down? It is worth $101. So this is what I have on my eyes today. It's, you know, right up my alley. Very neutral, very warm toned, hence warm neutral. Some of the permanent collection colors that are my all-time favorites that I also own in the individual pans are Brulee, Honey Lust, Amber Light, Saddle. Actually, that's it. So obviously there are a lot of eyeshadows in here. 15 for $65 is actually pretty good, you know, price point. There is another palette if you like the kinds of shades that I gravitate towards called In the Flesh. That's all neutrals. That, I mean, I feel like these are all neutrals, but even more neutral than this. They're all nude tones. You know, some light, some dark. So the ultimate, if you like the Tartelette and Bloom palette, it's kind of more in that, or Tartelette palette, those kinds of shades. So that's a good way to dip your toe into the MAC eyeshadow world without, you know, going crazy with a bunch of little individual $16 ones. But like I said, if you want to try some individual ones, I would just order it from MACcosmetics.com and get a shade like Woodwinked or Humid is kind of a funky color. Club, that's a whole different video. But anyway, the last thing I don't own, but I am intrigued by, and when I'm ready for a new mascara, because I just bought a new one, if you like that tubing mascara, but the Trish McEvoy one was a little high of a price point for you, so many of you here in the comments and in other places I've seen recommend Extended Play Giga Black Lash Mascara. I think it's in Intense Black. Is a tubing mascara. Again, it's that kind that only comes off with warm water. So it's not exactly waterproof, but it's very water resistant because the water that you produce out of your body, like tears or sweat, is not warm enough. It has to be like warm from the sink warm. So it won't just slide off your face in hot weather. Comes off in little tubes right off your eyelashes. It's kind of weird. And it's only $18. So that's a pretty good option. If you're into tubing, it's a little more expensive than the L'Oreal option, but not much. And it's quite a bit less expensive than the Trish McEvoy. And I think even the Clinique option and the Kevyn Aucoin option. So those are my recommendations. As far as I can see, they're not carrying any of the brushes that I would recommend. Some of the other MAC products that I actually do use and like are also not at Ulta, so that's not part of this discussion. But if you're curious about, in general, what MAC products I do recommend, or if you want just a specific video on my MAC eyeshadow collection and whether or not I would repurchase and want to see swatches or something like that, I would love to do that video for you. Just let me know if that's of interest to you. As always, I look forward to reading your comments, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.